welcome to Premier League predictions, and like usual, I'll be predicting all 10 games of Game Week 16 of the Premier League. And you see that massive derby, hang on, between Manchester City and Manchester United. I mean, both teams aren't looking amazing recently, so it's going to be interesting to see what I predict. But after I predict that, like usual, I'll be giving my goal of Game Week 15 and seeing how well I did last week predictions in this random Premier League at the moment to see how many points I got. Okay. Oh, yes. Right, we start off at the Emirates Stadium. It is the Gunners versus Everton. Now, the Gunners drew the last game against the Cottagers 1-1, but to be honest, they did play pretty well. Fulham had 2 shots. That's literally it. I know you don't normally go with the match facts, but you're just going to have to look at it. It was a domination fest from looking at it. But Arsenal seems to only be scoring from corners. That's the problem, they need to score elsewhere, not just from corners. And they're facing Everton, which their game obviously got postponed, the Merseyside derby, and now they're playing the Gunners. I mean, Liverpool would have been a really hard game. This is going to be another hard game, but they're going away from home. And the Gunners, yes, only got a point against Fulham, but Fulham isn't a bad side. And I feel like on another day, they could have easily won that game. And Arsenal, they're currently 3rd. And they're doing really well. And Everton are stuck in 15th. I'm going to go completely logical. I'm not going to go for any random one here. And I am just going to go for the Gunners. I mean, they look better than Everton. Everyone knows on paper they look better. I can't see it any other way. But I'm going 1-0 to the Gunners after Everton defence is very good. And I do rate it. So it's going to be low scoring. Over to the Molineux Stadium. It is Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Ipswich Town. A relegation battle. Both of these sides are 4 points away from safety in 18th and 19th, both on 9 points. And Wolves, they lost it again against West Ham United. I think West Ham deserved that game. Wolves, he did do all right at times, pushing forward, a lot of chances. They didn't get battered. They definitely stood their ground, although the defending was pretty shocking at times. They were very open at the back, and they have conceded the most in the entire league. And now you're facing Ipswich, which, to be fair, I say this pretty much every week. I really am impressed by Ipswich. I mean, yes, again, they take the lead, and then they couldn't hold it off. 2 late-minute goals by AFC Bournemouth at the 87th minute and the 19th-something minute, whatever it was. But Ipswich, they gave it a great shift against Bournemouth. Honestly, great shift, and they're very unlucky. And this is possibly one of the most winnable games possible. But the thing is, Wolves also need this as well. They need it as much as each other. And Gary O'Neill could be sacked. You know, he could be sacked by the time we recording this, but I haven't actually checked. But honestly, I can't see Wolves winning it, and I can't see Ipswich winning it. They're in 18th and 19th, they're very close together, and they both need it as much as each other. I think this is a logical thing to do, is to go down the middle, and that's exactly what I'm doing for a normal 1-1 draw in this relegation battle. I am going a bit boring, but I don't know which team's going to win it, so I have to go down the middle. We move to St James's Park. It's Newcastle United versus Leicester City. Now, as a Newcastle fan, I should be very, very disappointed. And I am disappointed, especially how well we looked going forward against Brentford. Because in the first half, we could have scored even more. And we probably should have. But to be fair to Brentford, they were better than us, and they won all the defensive duels. I mean, Newcastle could not win any of the defensive duels against Brentford, and our defence was pretty shambolic. But to be honest, I know we have conceded 7 goals in the last 2 games, but against Liverpool, I thought our defence was amazing. And throughout the entire season, I don't think our defence has been seriously bad at all. I think there obviously are concerns, especially with a lot of injuries to defenders at Newcastle. But going against Leicester, I think we can defend better because I've seen better defending performances. And I know how well we played against Liverpool, and I know how well we can play because I've seen so many good movements from Newcastle United this season. Attackingly, from the midfield, from the defence. I've seen some really good signs everywhere. Eventually it has to click. A lot of people want Eddie Howe out, and I understand why, but in my opinion, trust the process. I'm a very optimistic Newcastle fan, but I've seen a lot of quality signs. And against Brentford was a lot of negative signs, but against Chelsea, loads of positive. Against Arsenal, loads of positive. Against Nottingham Forest, loads of positives. Even against West Ham United, I thought we were also very, very good. So looking at all the positives there, especially at home against a Leicester side, which yes, did do very well to bounce back from going 2-0 down, and did very well defensively, throwing all their bodies on the line to keep a 3-1 win against West Ham. And they do have that manager bounce, but it's not always going to be perfect with the manager bounce. And especially going away against Newcastle and all the great signs I've seen, I'm going to have to go Newcastle. Trust me, I see something special in Newcastle. We've got so many great talents and Eddie Howe is good enough. But honestly, trust the process. I trust him. I think he should stay, as I think this is a really must-win game and it's a very winnable game. And I think we're going to win this 3-1 to Newcastle United. But don't get me wrong, Leicester have shocked me in the last couple of games, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again. We move to Anfield. It's Liverpool versus the Cottagers. Now this was going to be an interesting game because the Cottagers did manage to salvage a point against the Gunners, but I don't know, they did not create as many chances. I mean, they hold it off very well going away from that game. Looking at all the other games, they have played pretty well. Like, they could have easily got 3 points against Tottenham. They could have easily, back along, got 3 points against Man City. And overall, all season, they've been very, very good. I mean, they're currently in 10th. That isn't a bad position. After it's quite compact between 13th and 5th. It's completely random. But now they're facing Liverpool. They are the league leaders. And they've had a big break. Although they are going into the Champions League against Girona, I think they most probably will win that game. And they've got enough depth on the bench to make impactful substitutions. They've got more quality than Fulham. And overall, Fulham still lost at 4-1 against Wolves. They still didn't play amazing against the Gunners. But overall, I would say they are a good side. So they're going to give a good challenge. But I just cannot see Liverpool dropping points again like they did against Newcastle, especially at Anfield. And Mohamed Salah is different gravy. This might be one of his best seasons if he keeps this up. Maybe the best season. So I see nothing but a Liverpool win. So I'm going 2-1 to Liverpool. But honestly, the Cottagers still look very good and will give it a good fight. Now we move to the City Ground. It's Nottingham Forest versus Aston Villa. And Nottingham Forest, well done. Congratulations, because you have proved me completely wrong. I don't want to say it. I really do not want to say it. But in my table predictions that I made a few months ago, I put you in 20th place. Just stare at me right now and just think how bad of a prediction that is. And then I said you're going to fall off and lose to Man United, and you won it. You're proving me wrong loads of times. But once Aston Villa get going under Unai Emery, they can never stop. I know they do have Champions League football, but I've got a feeling that Aston Villa are properly back now. They did win at 1-0 against Southampton, and they were wasteful in their chances, but they should have scored more, and they look really good. Now John Duran's starting to start. He's going to be very clinical. It's going to be a seriously tight game. And I know Nottingham Forest probably are even the favourites after beating Man United, after Aston Villa are going to be tied from the Champions League, after Nottingham Forest are home. Those are all the pros. But I think Aston Villa are better on paper. And now they've got 2 wins in the last 2 games. Despite the Champions League tiredness, I think they're going to scrape this. I think Nottingham Forest will take the lead through a penalty. Chris Wood will score. It'll be half-time. It'll be very tight. But out of nowhere, John Duran will get a brace. He will be clinical in front of goal. And Aston Villa, we've seen the quality last year. We've seen the quality this year. And I've got trust in Unai Emery to win this 2-1 away from home. Aston Villa just got a lot of quality in their side. We move to the Amex Stadium. It's Brighton and Hove Albion versus Crystal Palace. Now this is going to be a very tough game to predict. I don't know what to predict, to be honest, because I think Crystal Palace has been sensational for quite a while. Even when they have lost, I thought they've shown great defensive performances, and they did really well against Manchester City. They were equal to Manchester City, and they deserved a point in that game. Both teams deserved a point. The scoreline reflects the performance of 2-2 in my opinion. Brighton, They had a Desmond in the last game. Crystal Palace had a Desmond in the last game. And I won't be surprised if another Desmond shows up. This Desmond chap is showing up everywhere. And I feel like I want to go for a Desmond. But Brighton and Hove Albion, they were 2-0 up. And they were the better side against Leicester City. Sensational performances, a sensational side. But they've dropped points against Southampton. They lost to Fulham, although, to be fair, they probably deserved a bit more in that game. And they probably deserved a bit more against Leicester, and they definitely didn't play terrible. It was only the last 20 minutes where everything fell off. And that's down to Van Nistelrooy making some decent substitutions near the end there. But now you're facing Crystal Palace, you might think, Brighton, you're on 7th, Crystal Palace, you're on 17th. Surely that means Brighton are a much better side. No, I feel like Crystal Palace are playing better than the results show. And now the results are starting to show. Honestly, I was never worried for a second about Crystal Palace. If you go back through my Game Week videos, you would see me always crediting Crystal Palace that they deserve more than they're actually getting. And now it's starting to happen. So I want to go Brighton, but I also want to go Crystal Palace because they're starting to actually get results now. And they're performing very well. Brighton, they look amazing, but it's just silly mistakes and not be able to keep the lead all the way to the end, which is a problem. So when I don't know, I just go down the middle, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Yet again, I'm going for another Desmond for both of these teams for a 2-2 draw between Brighton and Crystal Palace. Honestly, I would say both sides are very equal at the moment. And now we get on to the game that I mentioned at the start of the video. It is obviously the Manchester derby between Manchester City and Manchester United. And both of these sides have been through some tricky spells. Man United, definitely worse. They lost to Nottingham Forest at Old Trafford. And Onana, what are you doing? Why dive away from the ball, out of the way from the ball? If you just stayed down the middle, he would have just catched it. And it was full of multiple mistakes. Multiple little short pass mistakes, constantly shooting where you probably shouldn't shoot. And it wasn't an amazing game, and the substitutions didn't impact it much, and they lost it 3-2 because of loads of silly errors. And do you blame the manager? Probably not. I mean, he's only just come in and he has to sort all this out. But against Man City, which did pretty decent against Crystal Palace to get a point, but overall, you can still tell they're still in this downfall period. I call this kind of like a transitioning period back to reality for Man City. I think it's long gone for them to win the title. You may disagree, but I think it's long gone. It's going to take a bit of time to transition, but facing a Man United side, which is probably going to make loads of mistakes again, yeah, Man City's winning this. But Man United will get a goal after Man City have not been tight at the back. And there's a stat which they've conceded the second most big chances this season. And conceding so many big chances is definitely not going to be good. So Man United, you're definitely getting a goal, but I'm giving 3 to Man City. Manchester City 3, Manchester United 1 in this Manchester derby. We move all the way to the bottom of the table. It's Southampton at the St. Mary's facing Tottenham Hotspur. Now that was a crazy end-to-end 7-goal thriller. To be honest, 2 of the goals came from an unfortunate Cucurella slip-up back-to-back. But yes, that was a bit lucky by Spuds, but you still have to credit what they did afterwards. And you have to credit the sliding in by Solanke goal, and you have to credit Kulusevski's goal. And also what you have to credit is they didn't give up right at the end, and they still scored 3 goals, and they were pretty decently clinical, but also they were the worst team. I think it was just the case of Chelsea are just a better team. They're better on paper, and they've shown their quality versus Tottenham. Because I thought Tottenham at times were also pretty decent, but Chelsea were just better. As simple as that. And Tottenham really did fight very well. And the fact that they've shown that fight, the fact that they haven't won for a while, they're due a win against 20th. Surely they're going to have to win against 20th of all teams. There's no way they don't. And for that reason, and for the fact you're in last and Tottenham are much more higher up than you, surely Tottenham can do this. Now, the fact that they haven't won for a while, I'm going for a high-scoring affair, 4-2 to Tottenham, to Spuds, the sack of potatoes. We move to what you can call a London derby at Stamford Bridge. It's Chelsea versus Brentford. Looking at this game, Brentford, their attack is brilliant. Honestly, I said they were going down, Brentford, and I still thought that even 2-3 weeks ago. But now, I don't think it's going to happen. I think their attack is that good that they're not going to go down. And coming into this, do you think they're going to do good? But what is this stat? How have they only got 1 point away from home and 22 points at home? They've got the best home record, yet the worst away record. Thomas Frank doesn't even know. If he doesn't know, what's going on? If they're that bad away from home, and it's been consistently like this, it surely can't be pot luck and pot unlucky away from home and home that has happened. There must be a logical explanation. And the fact they're playing second place Chelsea, which played very well, and can I say, Cucurella slipped over and it was very unlucky. Ever since he had those change of boots, everything was fine with Cucurella, and I rate Cucurella, and he was unlucky. You can just skip past that. Maybe Chelsea could have done a bit better to defend after Cucurella slipped over, but do not directly blame it on him, because blame it on his boots. Because Chelsea mitigated that problem and they kept in the game throughout, and they did very well and thoroughly deserved to Chelsea. But the fact that Brentford stat is like that, I'm going to have to go Chelsea. The fact that Chelsea are in second and they're doing amazing, I'm also going to go Chelsea. And at home as well. I'm going 3-1 Chelsea, as Brentford against the big sides don't do well, and for some reason they have the worst away record with just 1 point. And we move to the Monday night kickoff, and West Ham are involved again. It's at the Vitality Stadium. It's AFC Bournemouth versus West Ham United. And West Ham, well done, because you deserve that. You know, you put so much great effort and you never stopped against Leicester. You kept them pushing, and you did the same against Wolverhampton Wanderers. And overall, I've really enjoyed the likes of Somerville. He seemed like a very fun player, very energetic. He kept on pushing forward, and he was a real threat against Wolves. Jared Bowen, goal and assist. He actually got man of the match by the commentators, and I just feel like there's so many quality players at West Ham, and the fact that now they've just won against Wolves, and what I've seen is brilliant. The last couple of weeks, I've seen some really great high quality stuff from West Ham. Trust me, I know what I'm seeing, and they will not lose this game. They are really good, West Ham, and their squad is much better than their current league position. But there's one thing I'm going to have to talk about, and that's Michael Antonio. I hope he's doing okay from that awful car crash. Full support to him. And they're now facing Bournemouth, which is going to be a tough game, so I don't see them winning it. And then Bournemouth, I can't see them losing it either, especially at the Vitality. I'm going to do it again. This Desmond chap is happening again. I really cannot split the sides. I think they're that equal, in my opinion, on paper, that I'm going to go for this Desmond chap again. 2-2 between Bournemouth and West Ham. But what always comes after my predictions is my goal of game week 15. And I'm going to have to give it to Lamptey. What a strike. I don't think the cross was properly intended for him, but he still got the ball. He did really well to find some space. And honestly, it was a great curling strike to the top left. But how did I do in game week 15 predictions? Well, here it is. That is not right. 2 points. How is that possible? How can one person be that bad at predicting? Surely it can't be just my bad prediction. It has to be random, surely. But anyways, that puts me on 82 points out of 298 points overall. I mean, if you want to see why I support Newcastle, check out this video, but my predictions, they're awful. Oh, and Merry Christmas. Toodle pip. 9 months in the making. Full of story. Out on January the 14th, 2025.